In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
From beautiful Saline in southeastern Michigan.
Around the world at sunskyMysteries.com.
This is the 2009 Top 10 Webcam in the World winner. This is SETV.
Well, good evening, everybody. Bill Zam here. I trust everybody's doing good. You know, when we had our very first guest on, his name was Cliff High, and he was the guy that, he is the guy that does the WebBot reports. I'm sure that everybody that has ever watched the show knows exactly what the WebBot is. And wouldn't you know it, it looks like one of his predictions may be coming true. Remember, when he was on the first time, he told us that he believes that we are heading for a new ice age. And you can see right here on the screen, this is your Unisys forecast for 9 December 2012, and you can see the cold air dipping down into the central United States all the way down into Texas. Just above the United States border, it is going to be 30 degrees below zero. That is 30 degrees below zero, with freezing temperatures all the way down into Texas, which is pretty something. And if that's not bad enough, when we actually do go over the fiscal cliff, you can see here on the screen the typical tax increase that households will have when the tax cuts that we are currently enjoying expire. Most people will be in this one right here. That's right, $20,000 to $40,000 a year. Your taxes will go up $1,231 a year. And in my case, that is exactly correct, because that is our income level. That is approximately $100 per week. In other words, 1 week's worth of groceries every month that we will not be able to afford. Say hello, ramen noodles for everybody. Noodles for everybody. Of course, they're going to do something stupid. Now, a lot of people, incidentally, welcome to the show. This is Surrounded by Idiots. My name is Bill Zam. We are the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens. You can see the show archives at USSAMichigan.com, and you can join in our wonderful, wonderful social networking site, SalineETV.com. That's SalineETV.com. And I want to thank everybody for stopping by and taking a look at the website. Now, a lot of people ask me, Bill, what exactly is the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens? Well, you see, the genesis of the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens goes back to before the big crash of 2008. Because you see, in all of the wiseness of our former governor, one Jennifer Granholm, who at the time was our governor, she decided to shut down the state government when she had an apparent really bad PMS attack for the ages, when she insisted on an income tax hike in Michigan, even though we were in a single state recession bordering on a state depression. That's right. See, the Michigan unemployment rate at the time was high. It was over 7%, about what it is in the nation right now, but we had that here in Michigan. She decided, in all of her wiseness, that the thing to do would be to raise the taxes here in Michigan. So, of course, she stomped and held her breath, and voila, Michigan became the first state in the union with a depression, with an unemployment rate at over 14%. Let's take a look at the article right here. This is from the Tax Foundation, taxfoundation.org. Michigan passes tax hike October 1st, 2007. And that is when the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens was born, on that day when she decided to do this to us. In what could be the final nail in the coffin for the Michigan economy, lawmakers passed a tax hike of $1.35 billion by expanding the sales tax to some services and increasing the income tax from 3.9 to 4.35%. Not only that, raising the business tax by 22% here in the state of Michigan. Governor Jennifer Granholm pushed the hardest for the substantial tax increase, said the following: "The budget agreement is the right solution for Michigan." In a news release after the vote, "We prevented massive cuts to public education, health care, and public safety, while also making extensive government reforms and passing new revenue." Just a little while later, in the Wall Street Journal, brought to us by the Free Republic, Granholm's tax warning fails to deliver. Officials in Lansing reported this month that the state faces a revenue shortfall between $350 million and $550 million after the tax hike. This is a major embarrassment for Governor Jennifer Granholm, the second-term Democrat who shut down the state government last year until the legislature approved Michigan's biggest tax hike in a generation. So, as you can see on the screen, the little browser there has crashed, so we're going to push that over to the side because I'm not going to restart the browser. So, as you can see, things were wonderful here in the state of Michigan in our one-state depression with 14% unemployment. In fact, in some spots of the state of Michigan, and not the city of Detroit, in some spots in Michigan, in the northern part of the Michigan where it's very rural still, 22% unemployment. That part of the state was devastated by her tax hike. Brought to you by the liberal Democrat agenda. So you can imagine my surprise today when I was listening to the radio and suddenly our dear friend, let me see here, apparently I'm going to have to restart the browser after all because it does not want to cooperate. Okay, one moment. There we go. That's better. Now it's all back up and running again. You see, I was so pissed off at that time about the this garbage that we had here with this tax hike that I started the Michigan League of Fed Up Citizens. Now, my question to myself, given everything that's going on here in the state of Michigan, or in the United States, should we take this national? What do you think? Do you think the League of Fed Up Citizens should go national? Send me an email. Go over to the site, SaleneETV.com or USSAMichigan.com, and click on the Contact Us button, and send me a note. And we'll see. Maybe there'll be enough interest to take this national. Maybe we'll all be famous. Now, earlier today, I heard something on the radio from a good friend, somebody who is familiar to everybody in Michigan, an attorney by the name of one Jeffrey Figger. He represented Jack Kevorkian. You remember the doctor of death that was helping people do assisted suicides. That's how he became famous. He is a big left-wing liberal nutcase at this point, as you may agree with me after you hear this audio clip that came over the airwaves today. Listen to this.
It's Jeff Feiger, and we have something important to talk about. Michigan's the birthplace of the labor movement, and as we speak, radical, right-wing Republicans in Lansing are destroying our Michigan way of life. Could you ever believe that Michigan would become a right-to-work state? Right to work is about rich corporations who want to destroy unions and make people work for nothing. Our pensions, our paychecks, the things that created the middle class, all gone. And I think we have only ourselves to blame. After all, we created a state where every single state office is controlled by Republicans and the rich benefactors. This isn't about freedom. This is about pure greed. This is about taking away our freedoms. Do we really want to be taken back to a time when workers had no voice and were literally owned by the corporations? God help Michigan.
Well, Jeffrey, you see, when the unions and the liberal Democrats, whether you call your union socialist, communist, or whatever ism you like to call your union, you see, when they're in charge, we get things like 22% unemployment, higher tax rates, a 22% business tax, people getting laid off. Listen, my wife hasn't had a job in 4 years because of you liberal Democrat jackasses. So, Michigan becomes a right-to-work state? Good. It serves you jackasses correctly and perfectly right. You're all idiots. That's why the show is called Surrounded by Idiots. And you're right, Jeffrey. May God have mercy on all of our souls for what we have done to the United States of America. Anyways, let's go on to something more pleasant, shall we? Let's go take a look over here at our first story. You know, one of the things that people don't want to admit is the things that they look at, the places that they go, and what they do when they're online. Because, you know, they figure what they do is private. It's their business. I've been through my own share of rabbit holes online, and, you know, that day comes when you absolutely have to clear your history just to be safe before the Department of Homeland Security comes knocking on your door and wondering why the hell you're looking at websites that espouse horrible, horrible things like preparedness and those darned Republican right-wing views. Actually, Republicans aren't right-wing anymore, so the hell with them too. Now, what we're going to discuss here is bad. It's really, really bad. Not like SOPA or the HIPAA fiasco, because those were shot down pretty easily. But this isn't something you can shoot down, and it is here to stay. This is an absolutely terribly disturbing thing, folks. This should not be accepted. It should not go through. It is a very crucial step towards total control and surveillance over the internet on a global scale. Now, we need to take action before they can take this any further. And honestly, there's really nothing we can do about it because we don't have any voice in the United Nations. Now, what do George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, and movie makers like the Wachowski brothers all have in common? It appears to me that each of them had a little piece of the jigsaw puzzle that foretold the world we now live in. Orwell had his masterful works, 1984 in Animal House. Huxley with his genius-level Brave New World, and the Wachowski brothers with, of course, the famous Matrix movies. Now, we're all aware that there are bad people in high places who seem to despise and or resent the fact that we have individual freedoms endowed upon us. What is called natural rights. Each freedom we are afforded, take or maintain control of, is one less device for them to use against us in their own villainous agendas of wealth, power, and ego. Now, this has been a balance, and it's been a balance where we have been able to keep most, if not all, of our rights. However, they use wealth and position to try to seize our rights. We use our numbers, our will, and our ingenuity to keep as many of them as we possibly can at bay. Over the generations, they've chipped away at those rights that we call natural rights. And before we get any further, because somebody's going to say this, probably somebody in the comments on YouTube, which I am about this close to shutting off. If you want to make a comment on the show, you can go over to the show archives at ussamichigan.com. At any rate, we need to talk about something extremely important, and that is what is called conspiracy, or conspiracy theories, or conspiracy theorists. J. Edgar Hoover once said, "The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. The American mind simply has not come to a realization of the evil which has been introduced into our midst. It rejects even the assumption that human creatures could espouse a philosophy which must ultimately destroy all that is good and decent." J. Edgar Hoover. Now, people have been conditioned, you see, to laugh at the word conspiracy. Just mention the word conspiracy. Anytime somebody thinks that there are secrets being withheld by the government or any group, or that the government is not being forthright in telling us what really happened in this or that or the other thing, and the conditioning takes over. That's one of the things that they've done, is they've conditioned people. We get a lot of commenters, editorialists who say, "Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist," and that is supposed to close off the debate, because who wants to be a conspiracy theorist? It makes it sound like you're mentally feeble or something like that. Well, actually, it's the other way around as far as mental feebleness is concerned. Because people who laugh at conspiracies, let's face facts here, you have to feel sorry for them. You have to feel sorry for how backwards and apparently illiterate as far as reality goes. They've never apparently read a history book, because anybody who knows anything about history realizes from the very dawn of history, world events have been shaped to a very large extent by conspiracies of one kind or another. It's just been going on throughout the centuries, folks. It's been going on forever. There's no reason to believe it at all. I mean, these people, they're like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy nutcase." There's no reason to think that all of this stopped in 2000 or 2008 or 2012 or whatever year you want to hang on it. It hasn't stopped. They go on all the time. It is a fact that it is an ongoing thing. If you go to any courthouse in your local town or your county and you sit there long enough, you're going to see plenty of trials brought to the front that involve conspiracies of one kind or another. You have conspiracies in business, conspiracies in the family, and there isn't one of you that can say that somebody hasn't been talking behind your back in your family or where you work or something like that. That's a conspiracy, folks. Conspiracies in business, conspiracies in the family, conspiracy to deny somebody their rights when two good old boys sit in the back room, a judge and an attorney, and they make agreements about your future or how they're going to rule on a case. That is a conspiracy. Conspiracies on the part of corporations to violate a law. There are conspiracies all over the place, and yet, when you come to the government, where the rewards for the conspiracies are the greatest of all, we're supposed to think that it's impossible that our governments would have conspiracies in it, and anybody would think so is some kind of a nut job. Actually, it's the other way around. People who question conspiracies, I think, got an awful lot to learn about the world. They need to start putting on their big boy pants and face reality. Here are the questions that we need to ask ourselves very seriously. Is there a conspiracy at work to take over the world? Is there a movement at work to take over the entire world? There is a group of people who are trying to do it. And as a matter of fact, they are, in fact, accomplishing their goals right now as we speak. The trouble with the word conspiracy is that you need to define it. Always remember that. You need to keep your definition of conspiracy straight. And when somebody tries to shoot you down, you have to tell them, no, listen. A conspiracy has 3 parts. There are 3 parts to any conspiracy to make it a true conspiracy. First of all, it has to involve more than one person. If it's just you, it's just a thought. If it's 2 people and they're planning something, that, in fact, qualifies as a conspiracy. The second component is that it has to use coercion or deception to accomplish its goal. When they deceive you, that is a conspiracy. The third ingredient is that it has to be either illegal or immoral. It's very easy to remember. More than one person, deception or coercion, illegal or immoral. That's what makes a conspiracy, especially at the level that we are going to be discussing right now. This concerns the United Nations and the United Nations Telecommunications Union, the ITU. Now, most of you have probably read the articles or possibly seen other shows about this, but you need to understand what this is all about. The ITU members over there, where they're having their dumbass meeting in Dubai, they have adopted the 2770 standard for global deep packet inspection. Members of the United Nations International Union, the ITU, have agreed to work towards implementing a standard for the Internet that would allow for eavesdropping on a worldwide scale. At a conference in Dubai this week, last week, the ITU members decided to adopt the 2770 standard for deep packet inspection, a top-secret proposal by way of communist China that will allow telecom companies around the world to more easily dig through data passed across the web. Your data, what you're thinking, what you're doing. This is perfect. Communist China is now suggesting ways for other governments to keep an eye on their citizens. And here's the problem with the United Nations. They're not elected. We can't toss them out. We have no representatives. We have no voice. They are attempting, right now, you see, the Internet. When you type in a name on the Internet, SeleneTV.com, there's a organization called ICANN. They're responsible for making sure that when you type that in, that the Internet itself sends you to where you want to go. The Internet uses IP addresses. Every computer, your computer, the computer that you're watching this on right now, or even your smartphone, I suppose, all have their own Internet address. You have an IP address, an Internet protocol address. All computers have what's called a loopback IP address, 27001. They all have it. Now, what ICANN does is when you type in the name, it looks up that number that corresponds to that name, and it sends you there. That's what they do. What the United Nations is doing, and the ICANN is based in the United States, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the Internet away from ICANN so that they can control the deep packets. In other words, they can clamp a little bug on the cable going to your house, and they can read every damn thing that you look at and what you read. The ultimate invasion of privacy, and I suppose it's got to have something to do with Agenda 21, don't you think? At any rate, let's go back here and read some more. There's a link to the article right here on the screen. All you have to do is go to the USSA Michigan after the show, and you can follow along at the link. The UN is getting out of control. It is slowly morphing, and maybe not so slowly, into a true one-world government with the power to dictate absurd stuff like this, and no one has the power to oppose it. And if you think those clowns in Washington, D.C. are going to oppose it, you are sadly mistaken. According to the United Nations, implementing Deep Packet Inspection, or DPI, on such a global scale will allow authorities to more easily detect the transferring and sharing of copyrighted materials and other protected files by finding a way for administrators to analyze the payload of online transmissions, not just the header data. Typically, the process of deep packet inspection has been illegal because it is considered a violation of privacy. It's like me opening up your mail mid-transit without your permission and even without any legitimate reason. They can now easily see everything you do on the web, and they don't need a good reason to look. Tim Berners-Lee, I actually met that guy once, a British computer scientist widely regarded as the father of the Internet, spoke out against the proposed DPI implementation. He said, and I quote, "Somebody clamps a deep packet inspection thing on your cable which reads every packet and reassembles the web pages, cataloging them against your name, address, and telephone number, either to be given to the government when they ask for it or to be sold to the highest bidder. That is a really serious breach of privacy." That is the father of the Internet speaking. Another controversial section of 2770 is that it contemplates having network operators decrypt their customers' internet traffic so it can be inspected. Now, let me tell you something. See, we have what is called the Saline Entertainment Television Group. Frequently, we have people that approach us with information. They like to be private about it. They don't want their name plastered all over the show. We have people that want to be guests on the show. Our shows, as all of you know, have been interfered with at a higher level. Now, this 2770 protocol, this deep packet thing, will allow them to read my email, even though we encrypt it. We use the HTTPS protocol, the encryption. When you go to a secure website like your bank, well, they'll be able to read all your bank data. It's not private anymore. They'll be able to read all of your emails. That's not private anymore. If you log on to your health provider's website to review the results of your latest test or order new medication for your prescriptions, and you do it in an encrypted website, that's not private anymore. They want your service provider, whether it be Comcast or Wide Open West or whoever it is, AT&T, whoever it is, to be able to decrypt all of the information that is private to you and your family. Got that? The company that provides you with your cable TV and your internet is now going to be able to look up whatever the hell you're doing on the internet. That's absolute garbage. Let's go back to the article. Can you imagine how much your internet access is going to cost if your internet service provider has to spend the time and resources and the money on decrypting their customers' communication, not to mention the lawsuits from people working at home and their company sues for tortuous interference? The NSA dropped all of their whining about pretty good privacy almost overnight. It was almost like they got a solution they could live with. They could at least make that stuff look a little bit more mysterious and like they, like it was a little bit more of an effort on their part. Pretty good encryption was pretty good privacy is an encryption is an encryption scheme that a lot of people think the NSA has been able to crack. And they can read anything that goes by PGP, which would be, probably your Google chat, your Yahoo chat, your Microsoft chat, your Skype, anything. There are ways to be encrypted and secure, and most people don't even use it 10% of the time. That's the thing. Even if you use encryption with this new scheme, you are not I repeat, not going to be able to keep your stuff private, because the United Nations, be very clear about this, the United Nations wants to take control of the Internet through a suggestion by Communist China and Russia in order to be able to look at everybody's information as it passes through the Internet. You're not seeing this in the mainstream media. You're not seeing this anyplace else. This is extremely, extremely disturbing. And that's all I have to say about that at this point. And let me take a look here at the clock. I'm not even sure how long we have been on the air. As all of you know, we've been on the air for about a half an hour. As all of you know, I have these heart problems brought on by the NSA heart attack gun, where they have done a fantastic job of costing me several $1,000s in tests and hospital visits. And it looks like I'm probably going to have heart surgery sometime in the near future, because I have what is called ascending aortal dilation. Apparently, from what I've been able to find, that's when one of the aortas in your body is fixing to break loose from your heart and causing instant death. The only way to fix it is through surgery. So they're going to be doing a 3D model of my heart next week so that they can see exactly what the heck is going on in there. And that is why my voice gets extremely hoarse, and I get a bad sore throat. Hold on one second. And no amount of fluids that I drink allows my throat to be less hoarse. In fact, when I'm having one of these hoarse throat attacks, what happens is my blood pressure goes all over the place and goes wacky, as well as my heart starts going nuts. In fact, I'm wearing my heart monitor right now. See, it's on underneath my shirt right now, and it transmits to this little wristwatch thing right here, and it shows me what my heart rate is. And here's the really cool thing. The microphone will pick it up. Listen. That's my heart through the heart monitor. It's really an amazing piece of technology. I've had it for 20 years. When I ran marathons, I first got this heart monitor. So, at any rate, I probably should get off the air before I have an attack and pass out like I do sometimes after the show. So, at any rate, it certainly appears that 30 minutes is our limit. So what I'm going to do here, this is what I'm going to do. Presumably, if you stayed with the show this long and watched it for this 30-minute block, you will know this after the show, and everybody else won't know it. It'll be our secret. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do tonight's show 30 minutes, and then I'm going to do tomorrow night's show 30 minutes, and then I'm going to do the next night's show 30 minutes, and that will comprise one complete show. Now, each part will be on the internet, so there'll be 3 30-minute shows, and then we will take the audio files and the show notes and put them up on the website so that everybody can read along while they're listening to the show. Pretty cool. We're also going to be doing the live streaming again. We are, in fact, live streaming right now, but we don't tell anybody when we're going to be on the air because, well, you know, it's like one of those things where, you know, when I feel like it, I just sit down and do it. So I probably should get back to some kind of a schedule. Probably going on the air at like 6:30 or 6 o'clock or something like that. Because going on the air at 7 is just, it's just nuts. It's just tears me up, and I feel like crap for the next couple of days from the talking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the show, and remember, everybody, be safe out there, and drive very, very carefully because it's getting to be wintertime, and it's also starting to be the beginning of the world-famous Cliff High WebBot report Ice Age. Have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.